Hi, I'm out looking at eagles again today. Here is an eagle who has made a nest near Minnesota State Highway 4, just south of Sleepy Eye. So I'll put a few still images of this eagle on as well. I'm just using my cell phone for this image, so for this video. So not a lot of high-tech equipment here, so not the best image in the world, but you can see the eagle in its nest, presumably tending to its eggs or probably even its eaglets. Hi everyone, Father Time again. Welcome to my house again, my rectory. I know you've seen this telescope here before, but I wanted to show you this in comparison to some other telescopes I've had. So you remember I had a small Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. It was black, right? I'll include here at this point in the video some footage about that telescope. So we'll pause right now and we'll go to another scene where I show you another telescope just like this, only smaller. So I'll see you in a minute or two. This small Schmidt-Cassegrain, I have another Schmidt-Cassegrain. It's a 10-inch. This is a 6-inch. And again, it's not from here to here. It's actually 6 inches from here to here. So all those measurements, to be honest with you, are in millimeters. But this would be 150 millimeters from here to here, which is about 6 inches. My reflector scope had a focal ratio of 760 millimeters. That would have been the distance from here to here. That was a quite long optical tube assembly on that white Bresser refractor scope. This is the white refractor scope I'm referring to in this video. The longer focal length. So in here it says FL 1500 millimeters. So this telescope has a focal length of 1500 millimeters, whereas the one I had out here in this place looking at eagles, again, that's what I'm doing today, I'm looking at eagles in an eagle nest. That Bresser telescope, that longer refractor scope, even though the tube was longer, it had a smaller half. It had half of the focal length as this one. This one has a 1500 millimeter focal length. That one had a 760 millimeter focal length. How can that be? This one is shorter, has a shorter tube than that one. Often you will hear astronomers and telescope aficionados referring to things like F ratio and focal length on their telescope. These are just terms that are used to indicate how well your telescope can be used in combination with a camera or any kind of imaging equipment to take an image of things in the sky, such as my image here of the moon. Now let's get back to my rectory where I can explain more to you about my 10-inch Meade telescope. So you'll see me in a moment or two looking at some eagles with this telescope. So I was out today looking at some eagles and say a little bit about this telescope out there. So here's the eyepiece. I look into this eyepiece. First I line up what I'm looking for in this finder scope, and then once I get what I'm looking for in the crosshairs of this finder scope, I can look in my eyepiece and adjust it with this focuser right here, this focuser knob that I turn, and that focuses it. So again, I can put whatever millimeter eyepiece I want in this. If I want to get closer, right now this is 42 millimeter. I think I put a 22 millimeter in there and then a 12 millimeter eyepiece in this telescope today when I was looking at the eagle in its nest. Right, so the smaller Celestron scope, the 6-inch, the other Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope that I have, similar to this style but smaller, that one had 760 millimeter focal length. That means that by the time you bounce the image back and forth on the mirrors inside of here down to the eyepiece, that image had gone 760 millimeters. What that does is it stabilizes the image and gives me a sharper look at it and a better ability to take an image with my telescope. Now I used my cell phone earlier today and looked at an eagle in its nest, and we'll take a look at that eagle and I also have a small video with me out in the field with this telescope. This Meade Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope has a focal length of 2,500 millimeters. This end, and so if you look at the eyepiece and through the telescope, and you can see quite well. Here's the finder scope on this one. So whatever I'm looking at, so for example, the eagle, and for me it is better if I take my glasses off. So align this to the eagle's nest, sometimes just by sight outside of the finder scope, and then find the image in the finder scope, and then once I put the crosshairs of the finder scope on the image, then I can lock the telescope. It's kind of windy out here today, so things are moving on me. So lock the telescope in place, and then I can look into the eyepiece and focus in closer and see what I'm looking at. In this case, it's the eagle who is on the nest, tending to whatever it is in the nest. So I wanted to show you the Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. I don't take this one out unless I'm really doing some serious and long time serious astronomy, maybe to take some images as well. So I hope you found this helpful, if not interesting. Thank you. You're probably wondering why I'm spending so much time with these videos about telescopes and eagles. Well, I happen to be an astronomer, and so I like telescopes. I'm also fascinated by eagles. Now, this, of course, is the American bald eagle. It's our national bird. And in this time of national emergency, it's good and patriotic to focus on and admire the symbols of our nation. So the eagle is a symbol of majesty and strength and honor, all things that we can be proud of as Americans. But did you know it's also a symbol we find in our faith? Several times we see eagles being compared to God as he bears us up on his pinions and as he lifts us up as though on eagle's wings. And by way of symbol, we attribute the eagle to John the Evangelist, who is also John the Apostle, the youngest of the apostles, the one whom Jesus loves. And so we read in chapter 19, verse 26 of the Gospel according to John, the words Jesus told John and his mother as he was dying on the cross. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home. And so it's fitting that John has the honorable symbol of courage and valor, the eagle, attributed to his name. And so eagles have something to do with our faith.